Stress physiology. We have to talk about stress, and I'm going to draw your attention to the sheet that has the nervous system on it. We all, dogs and humans, have a nervous system that is comprised of a sympathetic nervous system and an autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is responsible for kicking the body into action when we're stressed, when we have a need to go into action. It creates the adrenaline or the epinephrine that gets us going. And if you look on the right side of that drawing, that's the sympathetic nervous system. Okay? The parasympathetic nervous system is the one that allows us to relax enough to eat. Okay? If your sympathetic nervous system is kicked into gear, especially dogs, because we're a little different. Some of us are stress eaters. Stressed dogs not likely to be able to eat. So here's basically what happens in a nutshell. And I'm going to give an analogy or a real life situation. Where I live, on September 11th, 2001, we lived right in the middle of a triangle of destruction. To the east of us were the Twin Towers, to the west of us was the field in Pennsylvania, and to the south of us was a Pentagon. And on that day, everybody was panicked, but we saw it on the news, and it was boom, 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 and here we are. And if I tell you I have goosebumps, you just have no idea. What happened was all the flights were shut down, everybody's businesses closed, nobody knew what was going on. We were all really panicky. We couldn't take our eyes off the television. I'm sure everybody here had the same sort of experience, but we didn't know if we were going to be next. Because we're not far from Philadelphia. And so the planes had all stopped, and everybody's, sympathetic nervous systems are through the roof. And what happens is, when you experience something terrible like that, your sympathetic nervous system produces adrenaline. So you get this adrenaline rush, right? You get dry mouth and your arms get all shaky and you might feel a little queasy and nauseous. And then a short time later, your body kicks in with a production of glucocorticoids, okay, which are stress hormones. And so what's happening is the adrenaline production, or the adrenaline level starts to diminish, but the production of glucocorticoids presents itself. And the glucocorticoids can stay in your body for anywhere from 2 to 7 days. The purpose of the glucocorticoids is basically to give you eyes in the back of your head. Okay, so you imagine a deer that gets chased by a dog, and the deer goes, whoa, I got away. But now he's got these stress hormones in his body. Cortisol is the one that we tend to measure. And he's watching his back. He's like, oh man, that dog can get me again at any time. Okay. 9/11, when we had all this stuff with the planes and everything else going on, all the airports were closed. All the planes were stopped. There were no planes running. And the next day, 2 days later, I was driving along and a car about 3 blocks away backfired. And I just went, and I was like, hit the roof. Okay, so now I have a second surge of adrenaline through my body and a secondary production of glucocorticoids in my body. So now, instead of my glucocorticoid level starting to do this, it went like this again. Okay, and then the next day the plane started again. And the first time I saw a plane in the sky, the first time I saw a plane in the sky, I went, ah! And right, so there goes the adrenaline again and glucocorticoids again. Okay, so suffice to say, now I am in a state of what we call chronic stress. All right, when your body is chronically stressed, there's a lot of icky stuff that goes on. Okay, I already told you that a stressed dog cannot eat. All right. Zelda is not a big eater, right? It's got to be really, really good for her to really like that food, for her to want to eat the food. A stressed dog is not a dog who wants to eat. A stressed dog is one whose immune system is really battling. Okay, you get gastric issues, you get colitis, you get a whole slew of secondary physiological problems, usually digestive problems. But you can also have the production of allergies, environmental or food related, or food sensitivities. But you also have what we call a hypervigilant dog. All right? Dog with eyes in the back of the head. That glucocorticoid level stays high. So that's a really bad combination. And now we have this dog who's just absolutely freaked. Now, how does that happen? Some dogs, we have that predisposition for genetic issues, right? That comes from the genetic component. And then let's imagine that you have a dog that was fairly well socialized, but you missed a couple of things, okay? And then you have a dog, the same dog, at the age of about 19 months, gets hit by a car and breaks a leg or something. And it's a complicated surgery, and they have to do a bunch of surgeries, and he gets secondary infection. One of the dogs that you're going to see in the video grew up a totally normal dog, and he was in the show circuit, and he was doing a great job. And then they thought he had to have some shoulder surgery. And it turned out that it wasn't a shoulder surgery that he needed. He had an infection. And so he went through surgery and surgery and surgery, and then he went through all this physio. They were forcing him to move his leg, and he was just in excruciating pain. And he became a reactive dog. And he wasn't to begin with. He was perfectly well socialized. He was perfectly, his genetics were, you know, compared to his other litter mates and others in his line, he did not come from genetic material that was questionable. So it can be a trauma, okay? It can be genetics, it can be socialization, it can be a combination. There's always a combination of something that's going on, all right?